Hey everybody, I'm setting up the stream. Just give me a minute here. Gonna send out the link on Twitter and the Facebook group. Let's see here. Hello. If anyone's there, I will check in just a second, and I'm just posting links to my social media. What do I got here? Okay. Hello, Dean. Hello, Phil. Thank you very much for joining. I will be sketching in some more in just a sec. Just setting up a few things on the live stream. Thank you very much for joining. Okay. So I've already started a little bit of a sketch because the focus on Inktober is on inking. So sometimes I'm giving myself a little bit of a head start and just roughing out what kind of a character I'm doing. Sorry, I was going to have a beer and I couldn't find my bottle opener. Hold on, I see that Dean has asked a question. All right, let's see here. That comic I told you about, the PMS superhero, the antique shop that had it must have got rid of the guy that was selling it, or he pulled his stuff out. Oh, that's too bad. But thanks for taking a look. That sounded unique. I'll keep my eye open. I'm always looking for weird treasures. Where the stream at? Looks like you're on it. I don't know what Chatelet means, but welcome. I came straight from work, but I had stopped to get a couple new brushes to try out tonight. They're both brush pens. I haven't used either before. This one is called Tombow. It's a Japanese brush pen. It looks like it's really good at fine detail. This is a little more well known, this brand, Pigma, and this is also from Japan. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to playing with both of them. So The prompt for Inktober today was, what was it? It was divided. And I just used that as a pretty loose inspiration. I decided I wanted to try to draw Gwenom, which is the Venom version of the Gwen Stacy Spider-Woman character. So I'm actually going to draw over this loose face that I created. I just wanted it to sort of match up. This is all going to be black. I love the design, the aesthetic of this hoodie. Looks like I might be having some streaming issues. Why? Huh. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Well, what the fuck? It should be working. This guy says the stream is fine. Who said that? AF. All right. I'm getting a notice from YouTube that the stream is really slow on my end. Hope that's not the case. It worked fine yesterday. Working here. All right, good. Well, then I guess it's working. It's freaky. I would like to be a comic book artist. I'm now in art school. Could you check out some of my drawings to give me an advise? My Instagram account is CKDCINC. I might need to be reminded, Carlos, but sure, I'd be happy to take a look. I might need to be reminded, but I'll definitely take a look. All right, yesterday you wanted suggestions for fun comics. I'm definitely familiar with Herbie the Fat Fury TARDIS Rider. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know if I consider that obscure enough. But that could be actually a lot of fun to cover sometime. Good. I'm glad the stream seems fine to everyone, but speak up if it seems like it's slowing down, all right? Because I'm going to mostly be focused on my artwork, so I'm probably going to lose track of things. I'm going to try out this Pigma brush pen, see what kind of line art I get. Oh, that's nice and fine. I like it. Oh, I like it a lot. Who are you drawing? Asks Jesse. This is going to be my take on Gwenom, or Spider-Gwen's version of Venom. Created by a friend of mine, Jason Latour. I've never tried to draw her before. but I want to. I hope I can do it justice. So what's up, guys? Anybody discover any good comics lately? Anything I should be reading out there that I'm not? Have to admit I don't keep up too much with DC these days. I'm very curious what they're up to. I haven't had much time to check that out. Milos, you're not too late. It's right at the beginning. Hello again, Ghost Dog. Nice to see people again. Thank you. It's really nice of you guys to swing by because it's really nice to be able to draw with a little bit of an audience. It's an interesting challenge. Am I reading Commandy? No, I read the Jack Kirby Commandy books, but I haven't read anything more recent than that. Maybe I should. Thank you for the recommendation. I will keep that in mind. Let me think for half a second here. Trying to think of light source. Probably just going to be jumping all over this drawing to keep myself entertained. Not really much rhyme or reason to what I'm doing. I'm just sort of experimenting with these brushes and seeing what they do. Seeing what kind of lighting effects I can come up with. Thoughts on gun control. Oh boy. You know what? I don't really want to talk about that today. Sorry. I'm pretty depressed. I don't want to get into that. How about Ghost in the Shell? I'm reading tons of Archie stuff. Is there a new Ghost in the Shell comic out there? If so, I am not aware of it. I've read the original stuff. That's about all I know right now. Who are my art inspirations? This is Jesse Marsh. It's kind of changed over time. I think all of ours do. These days, Alex Toth is pretty big inspiration. I would say that honestly, like a lot of my friends inspire me. So like guys like Nate Belgard and Tony Moore, Corey Walker. These are just guys that I've known forever, and to see what they can do, I'm just constantly like, wow, I've got so far to go. But I also I like John Romita Jr. Or I haven't seen too much of his recent stuff, but I'm a pretty big fan of his work. I think Will Eisner is up there. Commandy Challenge is probably my favorite title right now. Black Bolt and Mr. Miracle are also amazing, and Bane Conquest is also great. You know, I've heard that Mr. Miracle is great. I want to say the writer is Tom King. I could be wrong. I think I've got the last name right, but I'm not sure that I've got the rest of that right. Keep hearing good things though. All right, I'm going to take a moment to try out my other new brush pen. So this is the Pigma FB that I picked up, and then this is the Tombow. So let's see what kind of line art I can get in this, and I'll start here where I can cover it up with black if I don't like it. Oh, no, this is actually pretty fine. Oh, wow, this is a really nice hard brush. Oh, I like this. Yeah, I like this a lot. Let's see how it feathers. Nice. Who are some of your favorite comedians? Dave Chappelle? Yeah, absolutely. I've seen Dave Chappelle perform. I like David Cross. I like Patton Oswalt. Who else have I gone to see? Jesus, I've seen everybody. John Mulaney is a really great stand-up. I like him. I like Paul F. Tompkins quite a bit. How about you guys? Might cover all this up in black, actually. You inking Venom Gwen? You got it. Ink Unique Flowbot. Is Fantastic Four really ended? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it's coming back. There's been some Fantastic Four sketches that have been showing up on some of the news sites lately, so I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back pretty soon. Maybe at the end of Legacy, Marvel's current event. I wouldn't be surprised. For non-artists, can you explain what a brush pen is, please? Oh, absolutely. So it's kind of a combination between a brush and a pen. So there's lots of different ways you can ink. You can use nibs. They're sort of like metallic quills that you dip in ink. You can, of course, use a brush where you dip it in something like an India ink, something really dark and black. And then there are pens that you can get in various sort of how would I describe this? Like, you know, how big the line is. Like this is a 0.25 millimeter size nib here on like an O1, and they get smaller from there. You can get like a 005, which is like a 0.2 millimeter line. So that's like for really fine, precise details, maybe like mechanics or a pupil or something like that. And then a brush pen is just sort of like, you know, you don't have to keep dipping it. It's got the ink in here, just like any old pen. It's just that this is sort of created a lot like a brush, and they can vary in consistencies as to like how hard or soft you need to illustrate with. And I like the control of this. The reason you might use an actual brush is you can have better control a lot of times if you're good, if you're talented. An actual brush will probably produce finer results, and the quality of the ink is generally better, so it will sort of last longer. It will show up like a darker, richer black, whereas this stuff, there might be like a little bit of a blue or a purple in it, technically, and it may fade over time faster. So hopefully that helps. Is it really a brush on the end? Yeah, sort of. You are right. It is Tom King. Mr. Miracle is a bit depressing, so if you're not in the mood, read it later. The first issue deals with suicide. Well, those are issues that interest me quite a bit, so wow. That sounds like a book I should be reading, I guess. Huh. Good job, DC. I was always a fan of Batman growing up, and a little bit Superman. Not a whole lot of the other DC superheroes appealed to me when I was a teenager, but as I got older, I started to appreciate some of their stories because I got to have the benefit of hindsight, so I could see, what was critically well reviewed and stuff, and just pick the best of any era, pick the best work by various creators. What paper am I using? It's some sort of a Bristol. Let's see, what do I have? I have whatever this is. I'm reading it upside down, guys. Why? This would be upside down for you too. What am I thinking? Okay. I don't know. I thought I got a Bristol pad, but actually, now that I look at it, I'm not sure what it is. Oh well, it's working. Whatever works. I need something bigger for like the thick black areas. What are some of your guilty pleasure comic books? Also, what do you think of American Splendor comic and the movie? Asks the Ghost Dog. Guilty pleasure comics. Let me think for a sec. I don't know that I have a lot of guilty pleasure comics right now, but definitely in the 90s, I was reading stuff like Speedball and Darkhawk and Sleepwalker, and I kind of knew that it wasn't that good, but I enjoyed it anyway. Yeah, this is nice. Oh, American Splendor. American Splendor is fantastic. I'll definitely talk about Harvey Pekar at some point. I think Harvey Pekar is a very unique voice. I miss him. I miss him. I think he created a lot of great stuff. Just talking about his life. I love honest biography stories. I think that those can be great. Good question. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie. I remember it being good at the time, but it's been so long, I don't really remember. Who was that starred in that? He's a sad sack. He talks like this. I starred in American Splendor. And then a truck ran me over. Who is that guy? Milos says the Terrifics is basically the new Fantastic Four, and honestly, I might like it more than the OG team because Mr. Terrific and Plastic Man are two of my favorites from DC, and Metamorpho and Phantom Girl. Yeah? Oh, Paul Giamatti. Thanks, guys. Paul Giamatti, my life sucks, alright? What do you want out of me? This morning I went for breakfast at McDonald's and the cashier punched me in the face. It's not easy being Paul Giamatti, alright? I'm just amusing myself. He's a good actor, but he seems like a sad sack. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I know I can get quiet sometimes. Sometimes I get lost drawing and I forget that people are here. I liked your vid on Mobius. Fantastic. Oh, thank you, comic book guy. That's just, it's always nice to hear. It's always nice to hear when someone likes something that you did. So I drew this eye to help me with the positioning, but now it's sort of distracting me because Gwenom does not have that eye. So let's see where this is going. We're going to need to tighten things up. Is this still centered? Let me take a look. Okay. So with Gwenom, her hoodie sort of becomes Venom's overall mouth. So for the interior here, and I'm taking this idea from my friend Nate Belgard, I'm going to sort of make it like the interior of an actual mouth, like a little bit the roof of your mouth, but maybe a little grosser, maybe a little more gunky. That's my goal anyway, to add some real texture here. We'll see how that comes along. They say that a good artist creates and a great artist steals, so if I steal from Nate, who's a much better artist than me, does that make me a great artist? Oh boy, I missed a couple questions. Any thoughts on the Fables comic series? You know what, Sigamigs? That was a book that I absolutely loved, and I think I've only actually read 2/3 of it. I ended up just life got in the way, and I lost track of where I left off. I keep meaning to figure that out and catch up in trades, so I actually don't know how that series ends. But I liked Fables quite a bit. I don't know if they could do an adaptation anymore, since I think that show, Once Upon a Time, kind of took that premise and already adapted it. So I don't know if people would be interested in a similar take on the material for a little while, even though I think that the Fables execution is far superior. Any drawing instructions books you would recommend? Let me think for a second. Honestly, probably just general anatomy books. I can't think of any that are drawing for comics that I would necessarily recommend. I think you can learn by looking at actual comics, but I think you also have to learn how to do life drawing and technical drawing. And I don't think that you can necessarily learn that all from any particular book. I would say instead look around town for where you can do life drawing. Usually there are life drawing opportunities at local art stores. There's things like Dr. Sketchy's that's in most cities. You know, you pay a few bucks and you get access to a model who poses for you. And I think that's where you're going to learn the most, is by drawing from life. Otherwise, you're just going to sort of be copying techniques, and you're not going to have an underlying good fundamental structure. That's my opinion. And I guess I have a pretty strong opinion about it too. So. Oh, wow. It says, great show. You got a viewer from Poland. I'll try to pronounce your name. I'm probably going to mess up. Let me think. Grzegorg? Grzegors? Grzegors? Is that it? Boy, I'm trying. I'm at least trying. You got to give me that. I'm at least trying. I'm actually having a blast with this character because she's pretty much all black, sort of a liquidy black, and she has like fangs and stuff, so there's like almost no wrong way to just lay in these blacks. I mean, I know that there's artists out there with technique that could do a superior job, but it's hard to completely mess it up. What made you want to start making comic tropes videos? Asks David Smith. Let me think for a sec. How best to get into this? I don't want to depress you guys, but when I started, I had just been laid off from a job. They were downsizing, and I really liked that job, so I was pretty disappointed to get let go. And I got really, really depressed. And I already deal with depression. So I knew that I needed to keep busy while I was looking for my next full-time job. So I started a personal project. Wasn't like I set out to make a living on it. I just wanted to keep busy doing something that I liked, and I love comic books. I think that they're an amazing medium. I think that you can do almost anything with them. Tell any kind of story. So I did it to keep myself busy and try to fight the depression. That's my story. Any great comics you would suggest? You could suggest. Yeah, let me think for a second. Manifest Destiny is really good. Manifest Destiny supposes that Lewis and Clark were not simply exploring the wilderness of America, but that they also had a secret mission to document all of the strange beasts and supernatural creatures that supposedly inhabited this land before it was fully colonized. That's a really fun book. I like that. Found one a while ago called Witch Doctor. I like that quite a bit. That was sort of like a Doctor Who, but like in this world of the supernatural. You know, he doesn't like have spells at his disposal quite on the level of somebody like Doctor Strange, but he knows the world of magic inside and out. I always recommend Hellboy. I think Hellboy's fantastic. I always recommend anything by Brubaker and Phillips. If you like crime stories. I read one recently that was nonfiction called The Green River Killer. It's about a real-life serial killer who operated near here in Seattle. And pretty creepy stuff. But oh, you know what's really good? My Friend Dahmer, by Durf Backdurf. My Friend Dahmer. Whew. There's a cartoonist, Durf Backdurf, and he actually went to high school with Jeffrey Dahmer. And of course, no one knew that he was going to become a serial killer. But he was a strange character. And so the book, My Friend Dahmer, documents both what he was like in high school from firsthand accounts, as well as telling his stories of, when he became a serial killer. It's scary. What did I think of the Blade movies, best to worst? 2, 1, 3, right? And 2 and 1 are pretty close, to be honest. They're both fun. 3 kind of dropped the ball. I don't know what they were going for there exactly. But even then, there's some parts that are kind of enjoyable. I love trying to draw leather. It's tricky. This is a good challenge. Hi, Chris. Would you care to include Great Lakes Avengers? Include them in what? I don't understand. Have I read any of Saga? How about Dark Knight Master Race? I saw the collected edition and was thinking about picking it up. I'm disillusioned with Frank Miller. You know what? Is it getting dark? I might need to turn on a light, guys. Let me, this might wash me out, but I need to turn on a light. Hold on. Okay. It probably washes me out, but I think you could probably see the art a hell of a lot better. So, sorry. Just realized that the sun was setting. Just realizing that I was straining to see things. Where did we leave off? Oh, I'm not too much of a fan of Frank Miller anymore. So I didn't read Dark Knight Master Race, but Saga is fantastic. I'm surprised I didn't think of that one as a recommendation. Yeah, that's fantastic. I like Brian K. Vaughan quite a bit. That'll be a fun comic tropes to do someday, I guess. Oh my God, guys, I hadn't realized how dark it was getting. I was missing detail myself. I can't believe you guys stuck with the stream. What's your take on the Hellboy remake? I'm up for it. Sounds good to me. I'm a huge fan of Hellboy, and so if Mike Mignola's into it, I'll give it a try. I loved Ron Perlman as Hellboy, so I'll miss him a little, but you know, things go on, life goes on. I think David Harbour looks pretty cool. I would love it if they could make Hellboy look sort of more like, sort of like ape-like or something instead of so human. But what's the option there? You either make Hellboy completely digital, or you put an actor in prosthetics, and you get a close approximation. It's a budget thing. Hellboy isn't as well known as the Marvel superheroes, so I get it. Milosh says that the Blade movies go 1, 2, 3. Green River Killer is a lot creepier than Elf with a Gun because it's real. There's a lot of serial killers operating out of the Seattle area. It's something strange. I don't know why that is. Is it our weather? The rain? Does it attract them? I don't know. I actually do not hunt down serial killers in my free time. Somebody else out there can do that. Look at that, this brush. I like the results, but it's already sort of breaking apart a little bit. All right, I'm going to switch to the other new one that I got. So, Tombow produced really good, fine results for a little while, but it didn't last too long. I know I'm behind on questions, guys. I'll take a look in just a sec. Sort of lost in my own little world here. But I really appreciate having folks around. This is fun. This is great to talk to y'all. Let's see. Is the Spider-Man movies you think 2 is better, but when you rewatch 1 is better? Oh, it's like the Spider-Man movies. You think 2 is better, but when you rewatch 1 is better. I'm not going to say that's wrong. Spider-Man 1 and 2 are both, I think, very, very good. I do think that 2 is superior in terms of the thematic content it tries to cover. I always find the hero sort of ignoring the call to heroism and being drawn back into it. I find that a little more interesting than the sort of origin or the beginning of a hero. But that's just me, and it's not a hard and fast rule. It's not all the time. So I personally do like Spider-Man 2 a lot more. But I wouldn't disagree with people if they said that they had the opposite opinion. I actually don't even hate Spider-Man 3. I know a lot of people just hate it, and it is flawed. They tried to do a little too much with it, for sure, and there's some weird coincidences. So the structure is broken. The structure is. But in terms of what they tried to accomplish, with the character arcs and stuff, I think that they accomplished that, and they have some fun action in it. So I don't mind it that much personally. Yeah. John White says, I've been turned off by Miller's recent work, but I've been reading his Daredevil stuff and am tempted to get sucked back in. Well, that's the question, isn't it? I think that Miller has fundamentally changed at some point. I don't think that the stories he creates now are the same as the content he was creating back in the 80s. I think he evolved for a while, and then I think he sort of devolved. I just don't think he does quite as good a job these days. Your mileage may vary, and I understand and respect that. I don't know. I haven't liked his work in like a decade or so. Yeah, maybe more. But I agree that his work on Daredevil. Like, I mean, what could you possibly say bad about Born Again? It's great. It's great. Let's see. How badly is Frank Miller going to mess up Superman if he ever does a Superman Year One? I don't think that he'd want to. Do you, David Smith? That's, I don't know. Maybe he would. I don't think he has a whole lot of interest in working for DC. I think he purely does it for the paycheck. So, if they offer it to him and they pay him enough, I'm sure he'd do it. But I don't think he has much personal interest in working on that stuff. That's just my 2 cents. What else? Drew is here, says, I actually liked Dark Knight Master Race. It has a pretty good ending that proves Frank Miller doesn't really hate Superman. Well, that's nice to hear, but then again, he didn't really write the whole thing, did he? He just sort of came up with the plot as I understand it. So, how much of it is actually Frank Miller is probably, at least to a degree, up to debate. I don't know if I'll actually sort of finish this within an hour, guys. I'm having a good time, but there's a lot to go here. Anjaw says, I meant doing an episode about Great Lakes Avengers and also about graphic novel writers Will Eisner, Guy Delisle, Marjan Satrapi, Dylan Horrocks, Art Spiegelman, etc. Yes, I want to cover all those people. Absolutely. Absolutely. And as far as good recommendations, I mean, yeah, Will Eisner, Contract with God, first graphic novel. You can learn a lot from it. Fantastic story. Guy Delisle, he writes non-fictional accounts living abroad. He worked in North Korea as an animation supervisor. Yeah, North Korea actually does do a small amount of animation, and he supervised an animation studio and had to live in North Korea for like a year, 6 months to a year, something like that. Wow, what a look at that country. So Pyongyang by Guy Delisle, that's an interesting comic book. Marjan Satrapi, that's an interesting look in the Middle East. I mean, these are great. I agree, Spider-Man 3 was not the worst. Thank you, Artsy Ian. I'm glad I'm... And Milosh also says I don't dislike 3 either, but it's better than most people give it credit. Yeah, it's not great. But I also don't think it's a total disaster. It just doesn't quite measure up to the first 2. But it's certainly better than something like Catwoman or Batman and Robin. Just my opinion. You're allowed to have a different one. We're all allowed to have different opinions as long as they ultimately agree with mine. Just being sarcastic, guys. Do you think there's an oversaturation with comic book movies and TV? Quite possibly, Ghost Dog. Quite possibly. I think we're close because I see something like the Inhumans that just came out, right? Now that's not necessarily going to appeal to everyone, but then again, neither would Doctor Strange or Ant-Man, and they made those work. So if there were less things being made, could you make a good story out of Inhumans? Yeah, I think so. I think that Marvel went cheap there. I worry a little bit about stuff like that they're doing with Runaways, I want to say, is on something like Hulu or maybe Freeform, Cloak and Dagger. To me, Runaways is really a fantastic, fantastic, strong comic, and I don't know, I don't think that should be sort of just given up to budget cable. I think that should be at some place like well, maybe not HBO, but maybe HBO if it's going to be on TV. I don't know. I think I think that's kind of we're getting close to too many projects in the sense that there's only so much talent out there to produce these and do like a really careful, caring job. I think that there might be an audience for it still, which surprises me, but I think that there might be an audience that's much larger than I might have expected. But you can probably only produce so many of these and have them actually be good. So that's what I worry about. Apparently he announced he was doing Superman Year One back in July. Oh my God, I didn't hear about that. Ugh. All right. Well, Frank Miller, Superman Year One. What's the point? Superman's origin is a fantastic story, but I don't think that it warrants being retold again and again in like a long format. Like when was the last good version of Superman's origin? Would you have to go all the way back to something like 1986's reboot by John Byrne after Crisis on Infinite Earths? You might. I'm trying to think. They've mostly skipped it in the movies. All-Star Superman was fantastic, but like it retold Superman's origin within just a few panels. He told it and they were done. Um, hmm. Superman Year One. I don't know. We had to get through 10 years of Smallville, and now we're gonna have to listen to Frank Miller's version of that. I don't know. Doesn't excite me. Doesn't excite me, folks. But who knows? My friend got to see Gifted TV show early. Supposedly it's good, but a little too similar to Heroes. Well, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it. It doesn't excite me too much because I don't know. X-Men as adapted by Fox is very hit and miss, isn't it? Like every once in a while they hire some top talent and you get something good. I mean, Logan and Deadpool were both good, but then you get something like X-Men 3 or what was the one like Apocalypse? Apocalypse is not that great. I didn't love it. Maybe I'm being a negative guy though. Maybe I'm being too negative. I'm getting close on what I can do within about an hour. And I am going to have to take off at the end of that hour because I still have to do some work on comic tropes. I have not recorded that yet this week, and I've got to work on the script for that. Yeah, it's a busy month. It's a busy month. I committed to too much. Oh well. All right, what else? Superman's origin might be relevant right now because of the illegal alien aspect. Well, it's not a bad angle to explore. I'm not going to argue with you on that. But think about it. This is by Frank Miller. Is Frank Miller going to be sympathetic to illegal aliens? I don't think so. And if you're telling a Superman story, you want to be sympathetic because that's the main character. Nobody wants a Superman that's a complete unlikable jerk. But what do I know? Gad Ramon says, did I miss anything good? I don't know about good, but I'm about to wrap up my drawing for the day, so don't know about good, though. Welcome. Thank you very much for swinging by. Appreciate it. All right, time to go back to the little brush. Do you like John Byrne? I don't see many people recommending his work. I like John Byrne. I don't like John Byrne the person. I think he's a bit of a jerk. But do I like John Byrne's work? Well, I certainly at least used to. I mean, I have to admit I haven't read anything that he's created in a while now, so I'm not necessarily the one to ask about that. I'm sure it's fine. But I definitely loved his stuff growing up. He was very influential in the industry, and he's not going to let anybody forget it. I wish that I had started this with a white ink pen to do some of this detail so that I didn't have to just leave it blank. I wish I could have sketched over it with a white pen, but that's okay. That's something for the future, you know? All right, what else? Comics that make huge impression and impact on me were Rourke by Andreas, Forever War by Marvano Halderman was too very strong. Okay. Let's see. Milos says the shouldn't be sympathetic. He should be fair. Immigration is a complex issue, and both sides of the argument should be addressed. I agree with that. Yeah, it's certainly a complex issue, but you're locked into something. There's almost a mathematical formula here. Superman is technically an illegal alien. If you're telling a story with Superman, I don't think it's a good idea to make him unlikable, because that's not the kind of stories that you can really tell with Superman. I don't think he's as versatile a character as somebody like Batman. There's not as many variations you can do with him. You can try. I'm not saying don't try. But I don't think it would be easy to tell a good Superman story where he's unlikable. So, you've got an illegal immigrant as your protagonist, and your job is to make him a hero, somebody to be admired. You can give him flaws and stuff like that, of course, but making him an unlikable guy or something like that, you get what I'm saying? Like, you can't really cover both sides of the issue very well, because your main character, your protagonist, by default, you have to say, like, oh, well, this is the good that can come from allowing an illegal alien into your country. At least that's my thought. I think it would be hard to tell a Superman story where we dig deep into the illegal alien issue. I just don't think he's the right character for it. I have to get out of here, but wanted to make sure to say thanks for all the videos and to keep up the great work. Well, that's very kind of you, John. Thank you very much for your support. What else? Let's see. Ice try to remove someone like Superman. Yeah, I mean, that just couldn't happen, could it? It would just lead to something really sad, like Superman has to create another identity and abandon his friends or something like that because he doesn't want to. He's not going to want to kill Ice. I don't know. I just don't think Superman's the right character to tell a nuanced take on the issue with. I don't know. I don't know who is off the top of my head. But probably not Superman. What else? Gods and Monsters Superman was pretty cool. Yep. Question: who would be the right character to talk about immigration? Probably need a character who has like a sibling or something like that that you can sort of make his polar opposite. So I'm trying to think of like characters that are immigrants here to America. Who are some superhero characters that also have a sibling? Because then you can sort of structure the story such that one of them, is not a benefit to society, and one of them is a benefit to society. And here's the thing: you also need to almost take the decision out of their hands as to like how they got brought into the country, because that's like, you know, if it's a child, they're not like sneaking into this country to take advantage of us or something else. So it's kind of, you don't want a story that's just mean spirited and punishing a character for something out of their control. So you might have to look to some sort of obscure character like Vibe or something and give him an evil brother or evil aunt or something like that. I don't know. I don't think I'm the right person to write that kind of a story. I'd have to do a lot of research to make sure it was an interesting and honest story. I just don't think I'd be the right guy. So I don't know who would be. Hear good things about this Tom King guy. Maybe he can crack that nut. Is that a story that people want to hear? Want to read? I don't know. OMAC. Supergirl might be better argument for being an illegal immigrant. Well, that's true. So Supergirl's fantastic. I mean, it gets muddy too because like they're technically an illegal immigrant, but because they're so unique, they've been given like a whole identity, and they look. Let's face it, Superman and Supergirl look like white people. So are they the best characters to tell a story about illegal immigration? Not here in America, because they look like you'd expect a resident to look, don't they? So I don't know. You could give their opinion in a story, but this is an interesting discussion, guys. And then you have the nuanced differentiation between immigrants and refugees. Well, that is true. Oh, Vibe does have an evil brother? Well, there you go. See, somebody already thought about it. There's a new player in town. He's called Kung Fury, released in 2015. Cheesy 80s, 90s stylized hero. Yeah, I saw that. That was amusing, but a little long for my tastes. I was just like, okay, I get the joke. Well, they didn't make more than one of those, did they? Jesus, I hope not. The visuals were interesting. That was the best part. I don't know. What do you guys think? This is my take on Gwenom for the prompt divided, because she's divided with her good half and then her evil half. So, I think I'm at a point where it's probably good to stop. Does anyone know any good Shazam stories? I started liking the character years ago after reading Kingdom Come, but I don't know any great solo stories for the character. Yeah, you got to go back to the beginning. You got to read the stuff by Fawcett Comics. That's that's the good stuff. That's the fun stuff. That's where there's just no limits on what they could do back then. Very creative stuff. All right, I think just clean that up a tiny bit here. This would sort of be the tongue if I had more time, just sort of wrapping around. Hopefully you get the idea. All right. I'm also doing Inktober this year. Just uploaded day 3, twitter.com, Harold's Baumanis. Baumanis. Let's check out who that is. That's very cool. Yeah, guys, gals, if you're out there, folks, thank you so much for being with me while I did this. I had a blast. This was good. This was a lot of fun for me. My final verdict. Let's see. I've got 2 brushes that I tried out tonight that were new. I would say that this Tombow started really strong. I loved how firm it was, but it sort of it died on me a little bit, like ink-wise. It didn't really hold up through this one single drawing very well. I question that. This Pigma FB held together a lot better. I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. And then I was using just a Faber-Castell brush pen. These are usually pretty cheap. Good for, like, when you're doing a lot of black, because you don't mind what you do to the nib if you break it or anything. It's good for throwing down some thick blacks. Yeah, I appreciate it. Tom Welling, what do you think? By the way, he might want to go back to superheroing on Flash. Tom Welling is on Lucifer now, which is a Fox show adapting a DC Vertigo comic. So he's still working, and he's still working on comics technically. All right. Yeah, I gave you a shout out. I'm happy to give anybody a shout out that wants one. So thank you very much for chatting with me, folks. There's my drawing for the day. I will see you tomorrow night, same time, 6 p.m. Pacific. That's the soonest I can get to it because I got to get out of work. Busy, busy, busy. But I'll have a new episode up this weekend, and let's see, what else? Yeah, it's going to be a busy weekend because I'm going to be at the New York Comic Con. So thank you, everybody. You guys are fantastic. Talk to you later.